Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Deckinaround. My name is Tyler,
And I am Steve.
and we just want to say thank you everyone tonight for tuning in. We know people are probably a little bit cooped up at home, going a little crazy with everything going on right now, so we really appreciate you stopping in to check us out. Also, just wanted to give a quick shout out to all the healthcare workers, police, firemen, and everyone out there who's still working and making sure that society is operating while this pandemic is going on. It's got to be tough for everyone who's out there really kind of dealing with this, but also for everyone inside, just be thankful for what we have here. So thanks so much for tuning into the show, and we're super excited for tonight's guest. We're actually going to be having a Master Mentalist on the show, Mr. Kellar O'Neil. Everyone, give a big warm welcome to Kellar.
Hello.
Keller!
You're getting very sleepy, guys.
Oh my god. Dude, I started filling up before you even got on here.
He was prepping us. It's all the mind powers there. How you doing tonight, Kellar?
So, yeah, it's good. It's great to be here.
We're super glad to have you on. Honestly, we've been super excited about the show for a while now. Especially with your history in the community, really having some interesting experiences more recently than anything with working with Lautrec on your deck, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But ever since we started this show, yours was a name that we've been kicking around to get on here. So we are super excited that you're on tonight.
Wow, that means a lot. And what a wonderful group, the cardist group, card collectors group, magicians in general. I mean, just what a wonderful community to be a part of.
Yeah, it's cool to have you on here, dude. Thank you so much. Ever since I saw the previews for the deck that you and obviously that Lautrec were working on, and then I started following you. It's been really cool just seeing your name come in and showing up in everybody's live and just really being part of the community. It's really cool to see you be really active, in the community rather than just sitting back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm fairly new, as a magician, mind reader. I've always, dabbled with cards, but as a card collector, it's fairly new, and I have to pull that interest from, of course, watching people like yourselves who collect cards. And, the story goes, if you're interested, as far as how did I come up with the Charmer's deck, as far as the connection with Lautrec. So, of course, being a magician, mind reader, I've always wanted my own deck of cards. And give about 2.5 years ago, I was searching around thinking, what kind of deck would I create? And I happened upon this card deck online that was called the Golden Oath. That might ring a bell.
There you go.
Yeah,
And
it does.
said,
It rings about 400 bells.
There you go.
That's a good one. So I kept thinking, I would love to have a card deck that looks that fabulous. And of course, how ambitious was that? And so I had no idea at that time who designed that card deck. And but I reached out and found out, and the connection was made, and Charmer's was initiated, and over a 2.5-year process, Kickstarter came, and here we are in the production process. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. We'll have to talk more about that as we kind of move in. Let's hear a little bit more about you and how you got into your craft, and when did you start getting? Did you start getting into magic, or was it mentalism from the beginning, or how did Kellar become Kellar in the magic world?
So as the story goes, for a lot of performers, I've been doing magic since I was 8 years old. And I'm now 39. And so as a child, it became interesting to me, something that I would go to my room and practice these magic tricks. And at the age of 12, I started performing, in gigs, which is a very young age to do that. And it wasn't until I got into my 20s that I really got into the mind reading, mentalism aspect. But once I got into that, I was hooked because just the psychological aspect. Of course, you could take mind reading and magic, put them together. They're really the same. They're similar concepts as far as entertainment goes.
Right.
And so, being a good magician helps in that realm as well, as far as the mind reading aspect. So I guess you take 8 years, and now I'm 39, so quite a few years I've been performing full time for the last 18 years. So
wow,
Dang.
that's awesome. So really, like Steve mentioned, what kind of I know they're kind of different. Different specializations within that kind of overall umbrella of magic. What kind of drew you? I know you mentioned that you saw the Golden Oath. You even mentioned to me, though, earlier that in one of the clue pictures, you saw a deck of cards that you were like, wow, that was a deck that I had originally designed. What kind of made you want to design cards in a way that kind of not so necessarily was something that you dealt with every day, but what really just drew it to you? Was it the art of it? Was it the appeal of it? Was it kind of the legacy aspect of it? I think there's so many things that can play a part in that.
Yeah, so I love the art of playing cards. I have quite a collection of playing cards, but most of the time, now I'm the type of guy that I get a nice deck and I open it up and I have to touch it and feel it. I just don't get it and place it on a shelf. Which, I appreciate the aspect of people who do that, but I really love the smell.
Okay.
I love the texture of the tuck. And, you can have playing cards in your hand, and the way the paper glides and moves back and forth. I think it's really important to be able to experience all those things together. And even as a magician, mind reader, when you're performing with those cards in the hands, they're magical even before you even begin doing a trick for someone, And so I knew that when I wanted to perform with my deck of cards that would eventually be created, I wanted it to have that feel. Yeah. And I wanted when someone received that tuck, I wanted them to go, wow, and make it an experience in itself before they even open the box.
Makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now, why mentalism and not cards for the most part, or gimmick tricks and stuff like that? Why mentalism? Are you into the mind more, sociologically?
Sociology.
Well, psychology. Yeah.
Psychology.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of stuck between both words.
I think everyone is blessed with certain, talents. And of course, no matter what you're doing, it takes lots of practice. And there are great cardists out there, card magicians who can do all of these fancy flourishes and tricks and sleight of hand effects. I can do some of that, but by no means am I that kind of performer. I think it's a different kind of style. I think it's a different kind of thinking. I think you have to think differently to be able to do some of those over-the-top sleight of hand card tricks. So that's just not the things that I enjoy doing.
Okay.
And I use, when I perform, I use card decks, not necessarily as pick a card, any card kind of a trick and reappear somewhere else in another location, but I use that card deck as a means to an ultimate end of psychological miracles.
Very cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So now, do you find that for what you do, so you mentioned cards are more of a prop than an actual necessity to the mentalism experience. Do you find that a lot of the decks you pick up you are kind of customizing to your purposes, or is it something that obviously I think with people who do card magic, especially starting out, you can pick up a gaff deck or a Svengali deck or any of these things off the shelf. I'm assuming, having been in the craft for this long, a lot of that you're trying to customize to your own experience, not just kind of an off the shelf experience.
Yeah, that's right. And when it comes to creating that was a reason I wanted to create my own card deck, was because everyone loves a good bicycle deck. The standard face bicycle deck, which most magicians, and a reason for that is because they feel nice, but they're also very recognizable, and especially in the magic world, that's what it's about. Is everyone recognizes this, and immediately, a trick deck of cards, or whether or not they're just using a regular deck that they're using to manipulate that way. I think that most magicians use those because it's recognizable, and I understand that. But in the same realm, I think that a custom deck of cards, not only, if I've got a deck of cards that is branded with my name, with my information, then it becomes even more magical, because after you've performed with that deck of cards, then if someone says, man, let me look at that, you can immediately say, here you go, take it, it's a gift for you. And how powerful is that? Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a very powerful
then they kind of don't think that it's a trick deck or something.
Exactly.
That's very cool.
Yeah. It's always, I feel like it's always the next level when you can give them something to walk away with, whether it's like a piece of paper with your prediction on it, or just something that ties them to that experience that they can walk away with, especially if it's part of the deck or the deck itself. I think that's definitely like a huge perk when you're, sitting with a spectator or something like that, for sure.
What it is, and it's also, in my show I actually perform and bend wine glasses and such as that, and then sign it and give it away to someone. And when you leave, something that powerful with someone, then it lends them to say, man, this is just, even though they know it's illusion, this has got to be real. But then when they take it home and sit it on their dining room table, coffee table, and people say, where did you get that? Well, they say, well, this crazy guy named Kellar actually bent that for me.
That's too funny.
And I think a custom card deck is that same kind of deal, because we live in a world today where we love materialistic things, and we love pretty things. We love things that feel luxurious, and I think that maybe a big part of card collecting today is really attributed to that, because it's almost like you see all the designers, they keep taking it to the next level and to the next level, and you just hit your head and go, what is the next level? But every time something comes and goes to that next level, you have to sit back and go, wow, I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah. Unfortunately and fortunately, both scenarios is you actually went with probably one of the top, if not the top, in cards today. So for you to work with someone who's gonna top his expertise, it's gonna be pretty.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Lotrick is a master, the master, I would have to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things about Lotrick too is he really goes start to finish. He's not just a designer. He gets involved in the press part of it. He gets involved in the paper quality. Start to finish, he really is a amazing, partner, I think, in the entire process, which is cool.
Yeah, and Lotrick will tell you he is quite the perfectionist, and he wants it to be right. And most people who are in the artistic realm, in the printing industry, most want it to be, they want it to be spot on, because it's something that once it's in the printed form, you can't. Of course, you could do a reprint, but you can't go back and change the original. And
everybody always remembers that original.
Yeah,
everybody wants the original.
Yep.
They remember it too. If you screw up in it, they remember that original.
That's right.
It was funny not too long ago with the whole USPCC registration kind of issue that's been arising lately. There was, I won't call it a meme because it was more of like a picture, but it was actually a little, Instagram post that went around showing Lotrick with a ruler measuring the border on his decks and shouting out USPCC, being like, "This is what quality looks like."
I didn't see that.
I
You
haven't
could
seen
send
that.
to us,
You
yeah.
need to send me that.
If I can find it again, I'll post it up. I'll send it out to you guys, but I'll also post it in the description. That had me laughing so hard. It was spectacular, but also it really shows the love he puts into his projects.
But
Yeah.
you know what? When you boil it all down, there's really, when you've got a printed piece that you put so much time and energy in designing, the last thing you want is for the card not to be, printed or cut inaccurately. You want that deck to come out on paper as beautiful as you imagined it and dreamed of it on the screen. And if not, what a letdown to yourself and to the people who are supporting you. So.
Absolutely. I see Matt popping into the chat. Matt Romerl popping into the chat, who is our guest for episode 3, was Matt. But he was recently had some experiences like that with the Fifth Kingdom deck. So he had some really bad registration on it, and he was a big supporter of the deck. But to see it come in, and granted, Will took good care of him trying to get it all resolved, but it was crazy to see. And I think, especially recently, the whole USPCC registration issue has been a bane in a lot of designers.
Yeah, it's definitely something that every company should always try to stay on top of, and it's always in the printing world. I have some background in the print world, and the thing is you're always going to have a margin of error. Every deck is not going to be 100% accurate, but that margin of error should be extremely small.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hear you for sure.
Yeah.
Which, Ian, I guess just seeing some of your more recent posts, obviously you have a fine appreciation for letterpress.
Yes, I do. I have always loved letterpress just for the art's sake of it. To actually see someone take a piece of paper and to mold it into a piece of artwork where they're using, embossing, debossing, and foils and blind emboss. I mean, it's remarkable. You probably have noticed, and for those of you that haven't seen, this is the piece.
So
there we go.
Seeing you hold it up versus seeing the picture, it makes it so much more real. It's mind blowing.
It's huge too.
It's about a 4x6.
Oh man!
And this piece actually took 9 different dyes.
Wow.
And there's 3 colored foils plus blind emboss. This is the back.
That's crazy.
That is awesome.
Dang. Now, I mean, you don't have to give us prices, but how much does something like that cost per card? Now, that's a business card for those who can't tell. It's a business card.
And this will also be a part of maybe something special coming down the road for the Charmers decks too, which I'm not quite ready to release, but I'll give you a snapshot of this, and then you might also want to get a snapshot of this, and this is all I can show you and tell you, but...
Oh, wow. All right.
Dang.
that looks awesome as well. I have to say...
Nice mahogany box.
Yeah, you are touching on some of the real things that the community likes there. Some nice woodwork, some nice letterpress, and some beautiful cards.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And so to go back, I mean, when you're dealing with high-end letterpress, I mean, you're, in pieces you can get upwards of probably close to, $10 on some things, give or take. So, because and what you have to remember is there's a lot of cost when it comes to letterpress. You've got dyes, you've got the design work, and it's all handwork, But I have such an appreciation for the people who can do that. Of course, working with Lautrec and seeing what he does. I mean, take for instance some of the most recent pieces he's done. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that gold on black deck is beautiful.
So he is a master with that, and of course the gentleman, Chris, who worked with me on this piece.
Let's give him a shout out.
Yeah, Fresh Impression. Yeah.
Fresh
Fresh
impression.
impression.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
we'll put a link in the description below
Perfect.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is quite a master himself, and I mean, and when you look at other tucks, I mean, you sit there and you go, just tremendous. I'm a big fan of, even if you look at
Yeah,
Luminosity.
Cody
Yeah.
Eklund's stuff,
yeah,
yeah, it's
luminosity
just
deck's beautiful.
fantastic. Yeah. So, yeah, you could touch and feel them all day.
Yeah.
This is
Or at
very,
least I
very
could.
true. Yeah, no, that's true. And it's cool that you have like the love for all aspects of the cards. A lot of people, for whatever reason, maybe love, tucks more or foil more or something like that. So it's cool that you do open it and you do really get involved in the whole deck. It's really cool.
Yeah, I recently picked up one of Jackson Robinson's Nutcracker decks, and this is the golden
Nice.
one. And of course, it's there were 200 of these decks, and I sit there and I go, should I open it? Should I? And I go, yes, I gotta open it.
Yeah.
Because it's just the cards are just so stunning, and the tuck is so stunning.
Yeah.
Because
for sure.
it's a piece of artwork that once I enjoy it, then I can put it on the shelf, and everyone who comes to the house can say, "Wow, that's an amazing deck of cards." And of course, one of my other favorites, I love what Alex does.
I have
Alex
mine
Chen.
right here.
Yeah. Oh, you've got the higher end level of that has the mirror, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Palace version.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but here's something I must point out: the appreciation for letterpress and fine printing. In card decks, if you look back at some of the old styles, yes, there's a big push right now for wonderful design, wonderful printing quality. But if you look back, this is my first. I got this just recently. This is my first deck of Congress playing cards.
Wow.
Sweet.
And it is in a suede box.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And you look at, how beautiful this deck is. I have not opened it, and the main reason is because it does have gilded edges, which of course, is a big thing right now. But look, it's got, a tax stamp there, which is the main reason I have not opened it up, because I would destroy that. But yeah, it's just, new design, great design, and let me set these aside. And, nice packaging is not a brand new concept.
Absolutely not, yeah.
It exists in a lot of these older decks. But I think it's great to see that the tradition continues with the new, breed of designers that you take into consideration. All those people we've discussed earlier. But, you look at what, our good friend Lorenzo has done at Stockholm 17. It's just unbelievable, the things that he's done. The new tarot deck.
Yeah.
It takes it to the next level. But it all boils down to the artist appreciate great design. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think one of the cool things about that is they kind of build off each other. They encourage and, I don't want to say force each other, but they encourage each other to one-up their own work, which I think is amazing about it. It's not so much a competition thing, but they see new techniques and new skills that their peers are creating, and they try and, figure out how they can bring their art to the next level, which is something I love about the whole industry.
Yeah, and sometimes, we think the more flourishes or the more, fancy in the design, but sometimes less is more. So it depends on what the designer's looking. I look at some of the newer decks that have come out, and I just absolutely love the simplicity of one of my favorite decks is, of course, the Cobra deck.
Yeah.
How simplistic in design, but what a beautiful deck.
That tuck box is fantastic too. That matte black.
Yeah, and then I love the I guess you pronounce it the Hanya deck. It's simplistic, but it's fantastic. So sometimes good design is not always, full of frills and lace, but there's room for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we even see that in the cardistry side of things with snackers or with some of the the touch decks. And a lot of those cardistry decks really lean on that simplicity, but the creation of art with the deck as a whole. So the back may look real plain, but when you fan it out, it creates this awesome picture, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. What do you have any like inspirations? I know, like you said, I mean, you named a few inspiring people that creates decks, like Lautrec and Lorenzo and Jody Eklund and stuff like that. But is there any mentalism? I guess mentalism magicians. Is that what they're called, or is it like mentalism?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a whole argument about that. There's some people who don't like to put mentalism with magic. Other people think mentalism is a part of magic. I'm of the belief there's room for all of it. So we're in it all together. But so you're asking, is there any inspiration from that realm in the card deck world?
Because I don't know. No, not from the card deck, from like the mentalism side, because I don't know very many mentalists. So, who are you inspired by? Who inspired you as you were growing up when you were younger, and to even now in the mentalism world?
Well, it's interesting. If you look back over the years, I mean, when it comes to, mentalist, of course, the name Kreskin probably rings a bell to most people. Then there's also Uri Geller, who was famous for bending silverware and doing all kinds of remarkable things. But really, in this day and age, there are a lot of, I can't really pinpoint anyone particular, but, there's nothing like, talking about the card decks, of appreciating what is done with design and production. I look at the art of mentalism in that same facet, is that, you can look at it like if I were holding a big diamond in my hand, and all the facets that go around it, that all of us, whether it be the card deck world, whether it be in the mentalism magic world, all those different facets represent a wonderful side of those industries. And when you sit back as an entertainer and as a motivational speaker, and you sit and you go, you know what, that is just wonderful what that person's done, and you come up with a different way that you would like to do something similar, come up with a different routine, and that's what's great about our industry, is that we can get together and we can say, you know what, Steve, what do you think about this card trick I just did, or this mind reading trick I just did? And you would look at me and say, well, that was great, but if you did it this way, it could be a lot better. And so I think most of my inspiration comes from my friends who, some of them are not full-time performers, but they do the same thing just as for a hobby and just for fun. But they can sit there and they go, wow, that's, if we do it this way, we can make it better, do it this way, and people would enjoy it more. So,
yeah. Can you give us a little mentalism trick, I guess you call it?
Performance?
Yeah, you can call it whatever you want. Let's do so.
Yeah, performance.
So
give
either
us some.
of you guys do magic at all?
I practice like sleight of hand stuff. I'm not very good, but I do practice.
All right, we'll do something simple. All right, so Tyler,
so
magic?
I am also a beginner in the sleight of hand style of things. I can do about a snap change, and that's about it right now.
Okay. Well, let's do something. So it sounds like you don't do as much magic. We'll do this with you, Tyler. So just a blank piece of paper. All right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to fold it into fours. Now, Tyler, I want you to think of, let's see. I was going to say someone famous. All right. It could be anyone famous. Think of this person. And if you would, think in your mind, I don't want you to say who this person is yet, but think in your mind, male or female, okay?
Okay.
And I'm just going to try to stare in your eyes a little bit here. I've been practicing something here. I'm not quite that good at it yet, but think of this person. Male or female, okay, I think I've got it. And if you would also think big hair on the head or small hair on the head.
Okay.
All right. You got it?
Yep.
You sure?
Yep.
All right. Now, young or old? Young or old?
Okay.
You got it?
Yep.
All right. So here's the thing. Tyler, you're thinking of someone right now.
Yep.
You've not said it out loud.
Correct.
We've not talked about this before. You said you didn't do a lot of magic. But if you would, call aloud who you're thinking of right now.
All right. The Queen of England. Queen Elizabeth.
Of all the people, the Queen of England.
Yeah, why not? I always see the UK in the news recently.
So I cut the piece here, a silhouette of sorts.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, what the?
And I'll pull that up to there.
Ah.
What?
And of course, Skype dips real quick here, but if for anyone,
I'll keep it in place so it doesn't move from the screen.
So Jamie's response to that, he saw a glimpse of that. He goes, "Holy moly, that is amazing."
So there you can see the Queen of England.
That
right
is
there.
First off,
Queen Elizabeth.
I'm gonna say two things.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That is crazy skills, but on top of that, your scissor skills are spectacular.
Well,
Jamie says, "What are those scissors? Are they for ants?"
oh, you like those scissors? They're actually shaped like a pelican, I think. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Small scissors for small details.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing, though, man.
So that gives you a small example of kind of psychological details. But again, what's interesting is even though Tyler, I said, mention anyone, any celebrity, or I don't remember if I said celebrity or famous person. But the thing is you could have thought about anyone, but even through the camera, I could see right through your eyes and pick it up just like that. So again, but all of that takes work and practice and more practice. So
yeah, for sure. There's actually anybody have any questions? I know there was a couple questions out here that I saw, but they were more towards the card side, so we'll go back to those just while we're on the mentalism side.
Sure.
What's your favorite trick to do on the mentalism side? Do you have like one that is your big go-to one?
So part of the reason I wanted my own card deck was that the last effect in my show uses a card deck. And what happens is I have a card deck. It's been in view the entire time. And I go around the room and I say, sir, 52 decks in a card, in a deck of cards. And if you would name red or black, and they name red or black, then he chooses someone at random in the audience. Say, for instance, they said red. Then we go to the next person and we say, okay, he said red, so you choose heart or diamonds. The lady chooses diamonds. Then she chooses someone at random, and they say, okay, there's ace through queen. We've got the diamonds. So if you would choose ace through queen, and they say, for instance, the 7 of diamonds. All right. And then that person chooses a person, and I have them choose a number between 1 and 52. Any number, random. This is all random. I don't know these people. Then they choose a number. Say they choose the number 37. I open the card deck, and invite everyone to join. Open the card deck, spread it out, and say, for instance, they said the number 37. They see a different colored card that's in this deck. Say, for instance, the deck is blue. There's one red card. We count to the red card. It's at the number 37. And then, of course, everyone thinks that card, when flipped over, will be the 7 of diamonds, which is the random card they've come up to. But it's not. It's an indifferent card. It might be the 8 of clubs. But I said, you know what? Earlier, before you even came to this event tonight, I did something. And I turned the card over, and written around the edges of the card is John will say red, Susie will say diamonds, Bob will say 7, and Don will say 37, all written around the edges of the card, which is just totally random, just happened. Everyone called out these things. And then the kicker is I flip the deck over, and every card in the deck is the 7 of diamonds, which is the card that they've
Nice.
selected. So that is an effect that, it was a big reason I wanted to do, my own custom deck, because it's great. You can do the effect and then give that deck out. Someone can take home
That's
with
awesome.
them. So.
That's cool. That's rad. Does that mean that you're gonna have some gaff cards coming our way, or what?
Well, none of that is gaff, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
But I'm saying, are we gonna have decks that are like all 7s or all 9s or something that we could do like that trick with?
That's actually, that's something to think about. I've not thought about releasing any gaff decks of Charmers, but if there were enough interest, I think that'd be something cool to do.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Now, of course, in the Charmers regular decks, there will be 2 gaff cards. There's a double backer and there's a double facer, so you can perform the 2-card Monty, which I think it's an effect that anyone can do. Mm-hmm. And so when you get the deck of Charmers, whoever, even just a fan who purchases it can then perform a magic trick with the deck of cards.
Nice. Do you think you'll actually do a little tutorial with the deck when you get it, just to show kind of what you can do with that, those gaff cards?
Yeah, I will. And I actually, when I perform, I have the Southern Charmer mind reading kit. I call it the Box of Wonder, and of course Charmers will be a part of that too. I use those for backroom sales, and I have a video series that goes with that, so it shows how to do all these different effects.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
And I definitely will end up doing that.
Sweet.
So one of the questions that came in from the audience here was actually from Jamie Bacon-Wise on Instagram. He wanted to know, Bacon-Wise. He wanted to know if you knew Craig, and I might butcher this name, Craig Karges, Karges.
Yeah, it's Craig Karges, and I do not know Craig personally. However, I do admire his work. He's fantastic. One of the great things that he does as part of his act that I've seen is, of course, the floating table, which is fantastic, using the mind and the table floats. And Craig is tremendously talented, and he is a wonderful performer.
Nice. Another question was, let's see. What is the largest crowd that you've performed for?
The largest crowd I have performed for had around 800,
nice.
Which is, of course, when you're doing mind reading, it's not necessarily that difficult because most of the time the people are your props. But you still have to have some close-ups. So, of course, when you're performing for a group that large, you have to have more cameras and, make it more spectacle, or more of a spectacle, I should say. But, yeah, I love performing for large crowds, but I have to say that the sweet spot that I really like is no more than 75, 100 guests, because do for groups that size that you can't pull off as well with a larger group, or it doesn't come off as well. If someone's sitting, on the 50th row, they're not going to get the same experience necessarily as if you had a smaller group and everyone can easily see what's going on. So,
yeah, for sure. We have another question coming in from Sun Rabbit. Is mentalism more about illusion or observation?
That's a deep question. More about illusion or observation? I'm going to have to say observation. Although there's lots of illusion that's involved, but it's sort of like when you're doing a magic trick, which a lot of people, most people at some point in their life have touched a magic trick. It might be the little container that you put a quarter in and you slide it and you open it up and the quarter's vanished.
Right.
That is an illusion. But those same kind of illusions can also be used in mind reading and mentalism as well. But the reason I would say more observation is because when you're performing mentalism, you have to constantly be way ahead of the audience.
Right.
And you have to really read deep into what they're thinking. You have to read deep into their behavioral movements and speech and such. And that's why I find mentalism, I'm not going to say necessarily more challenging than magic, but it's more challenging for me as an individual than the magic aspect of it, because it's making me, instead of being one-upped on the card trick, it's making me one-up them on a psychological mind bend, if that makes sense. So they're very similar, but I would definitely say more observational than illusion.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, it always, mentalism always fucks with my mind. It's like, because like when you see a card trick, you're like, okay, their hands are just quicker than my eye. They're distracting me.
Yeah.
But when I see the mentalism, I'm like, how the hell? Like, yeah, that's just always my.
Well, it's like I tell people, when they ask questions about, the magic versus mind reading, and in reality, you're doing very similar things, but you're looking in the wrong place. There's misdirection in it, just as if you were watching the lady vanish underneath if the lady vanishes standing on a table and the cloth moves and she's gone. Well, mentalism is the same kind of thing, but you're not experiencing it in the same way. So
right. Yeah, for sure.
I remember a couple years ago there was actually a TV show called The Mentalist with Simon Baker. And he kind of walked through the same like skills, like the behavior and watching people's like tells when they're questioning him and things like that to solve crimes, which obviously I feel like the gimmick on TV is always something to solve crimes, but I always got a good kick out of that show.
Yeah, that was a great show. Is that still on TV? I guess not.
No, I think it's been off the air for a couple years now.
Yeah, that's great. And what's great now is there are wonderful shows, of course, like Penn and Teller, Fulless, and such as that, where you get to see performers who totally think outside of the box. And that's what I appreciate about the art, is that, again, just as the card decks, you're not trying to one-up your other performers necessarily, because it's a different kind of style, but you're trying to always one-up yourself, trying to challenge yourself to do something more amazing in the next show and the next show. So
no, that's definitely true. It's always just trying to get better and learn more, and I think the best way for us to do that is to like learn from each other, and I think a lot of people, and we've talked about this before, a lot of people I think feel like they're more in competition and try to one up someone, whether it's with decks of cards, like I have this one, you don't. They're not necessarily saying you don't have it, but even with magicians or cardistry or I think we have to collaborate more and learn more from each other rather than obviously not tell all, but definitely guide people, because I think that allows us to carry on the hobby, the whatever it is you want to call it. It just allows it to grow, because other people's minds work differently. They can take something that you taught them and create something that's just like nobody has created before.
That's right, and that's also, I think, what makes the art is being able to share with each other. And what's the point being jealous? We all do different things. We may do similar things, and that's why I have to say, I had the wonderful opportunity back last October to go to the 52 Plus Joker convention in Charlotte. And the big reason for that was Lautrec had come from Greece to attend that. And we were, of course, in planning processes of the Charmers deck. But attending that convention was such an eye-opening experience. Yeah, there were some magicians there, but the majority card collectors, designers, and I left that convention with such inspiration, because the entire experience was not people trying to say, oh, look at this, look at that, look how great this is, it's better than yours, that kind of thing. Everyone was just working together and just loving each other's work. And
that's awesome.
It was refreshing. It was refreshing.
That's so cool.
So for everyone listening, if you do have the opportunity, later this year to attend that convention, I highly recommend it, because I think you would find it to be a grand experience.
Yeah, for sure. We're planning on hitting it up and filming while we're there, and doing as much as possible for those who can't be there. We'll bring them there through the live stream. That can actually bring up the question that was asked a little earlier by Rabbit as well, and she said, "Did you consider any other designers or producers for your deck, or did you just basically have Lautrec in mind and it just worked out that way?"
Well, yeah, I mean, with that particular deck, after I saw the Golden Oath, I was determined to have Lautrec do that deck. Even though at the time, of course, I had not gotten much into the card collecting world, at that moment, I didn't know, which I think was what made the experience grand, was that I didn't know too much about who the designers were at that point. And of course, we're talking, now getting closer to 3 years. I didn't know. So here with just the innocence of saying, Lautrec, will you design this card deck for me? I had no idea who I was really, who I was asking.
That's cool.
And,
that makes it even better.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure a lot of the designers get questioned all the time. Would you design this for me? Would you design this? And yes, I guess there are lots of designers out there who are willing to take on projects all the time. But then there are some people, I think, who just purely like designing their own work, like creating for themselves, which is understandable. And so, did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it definitely did. I think, I'm sure, Tyler, you can agree with this as well. I don't know if you have any tattoos, Kellar, but I think a designer is just like a tattoo artist, right? Is like, if you have an idea or a concept for a deck, you need to go to a designer that actually fits that concept. You can't just take your design to anybody. You can show it around and see if you want, if you like a specific designer, see if they can do something along those lines. But for me, I think that one of the most important things is definitely find a designer that fits that specific type of style or concept.
Yeah, because I think when you go to design a deck and you have something in mind, I think you have to think that, and here's the thing, you have to be open-minded to think, this is what I have in mind, but knowing that designer can take it to a level that you could never have imagined. The Charmer's deck, ultimately, the way that it looks was not necessarily originally what my thought process was. It's way above that.
Right.
And I think sometimes people settle, it's easy to say, wow, that looks good, it's a good design, and then they just go with it, versus taking the time to work with the designer and actually not necessarily saying, change this, change that, but just appreciate the artist license that they can take and just make it so much better than you ever thought it could be.
Yeah, I'm dealing with that right now, and it's definitely one of the most difficult things, going through that, because an artist's work it's like their baby, right? And I think when you're going back and forth in the creation kind of cycle, it's difficult to kind of say that's not what I'm looking for, or can you change this, or and it's kind of like that dynamic. It's great, it definitely Fortunately, I found someone who, can communicate the way that we need to communicate to iron out those indifferences and create something and come back to, the vision that was there. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a process. And was it difficult, the language barrier between you and Lautrec? I haven't heard him speak, so I don't
No,
know how his
no,
English is. But
yeah, and we actually we've joked about it, and of course when Lautrec and I met in person at 52 Plus Joker, no, it's interesting. Yeah, of course you always have some things that is a little different, and Lautrec will tell you, of course, his verbal in English is not as good as his typing in English, which is
right.
common. But sometimes when you're talking with someone from that has a different language, yeah, there's some barrier there. But I've found it completely wonderful corresponding back and forth, and just willing to sit back and watch, for lack of better words, watch the magic happen.
Yeah.
And Lautrec has always been, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I like this, but, or from his standpoint, he'd say, I like this, but it's not where it should be.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And then you look at it and you go, really? It's fabulous.
Yeah, I guess that's the bonus of working with someone who probably has a crazy high expectation of himself that far exceeds our expectations. So when we see something, we're like, wow, that's sick. And he's like, no, I don't like it. It's terrible.
Yeah, and most people, don't understand that. There's some designers who, we look at it and we think that they're just designing a deck really quickly and putting it out. But in reality, those designs have gone through multiple variations. As they're being designed, they're going to go through multiple variations. So creating a deck of cards is not an easy task.
No,
from
definitely not.
The very beginning all the way through the print process, it is a challenging project. And, I think unless you're, on that side of it, it's hard to comprehend truly how much, it's more than just creating geometrical shapes. It's creating something that really has an ultimate theme to it. And, for someone like myself, I might have it in my head,
right,
what the theme looks like, but the artist truly knows what that looks like.
Yeah, I have no idea how they do it. I'm definitely not a designer, and I'm not an artist from that any way, shape, or form. But give me something that I have to take a picture of, and you want to portray something in an image, I can make it happen. But
That's
when
right.
it comes to like the creation process, I'm like, I have no idea how they do it. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, it's impressive for sure.
Yeah, let's see if we have any other.
So we do
questions
we
here.
do have one question. I know
ahead,
Kyle
Tom.
popped in and popped out, but he did leave a question on the Instagram. So Kyle is famous on the show for, we'll say, posing mind-bending questions so far. So Kyle's question this week is, if you try to fail and succeed, did you fail or succeed?
One more time.
If you try to fail and succeed, did you fail or succeed?
Fucking Kyle.
That's a very good. But this is the way I look. I am definitely a guy who the glass is always, and I mean always, half full. It's never half empty.
Word to that.
And I think you can look at. Geez, with what's going on in the world, yeah, there's some very, very tough times going on. But at the same time, you just have to keep on keeping on. And even when it comes to performing, even when it comes to card deck creation, you just, you think something is a failure, but you know what? That failure, I think it's always a success, and you just strive. And that's why, and you notice it's on the Charmer's deck. My line is keep the wonder. And that all boils down to that positivity of that glass being half full. Because, there's an old saying that everybody's got something, kind of a thing. Everybody's going through something.
Yeah.
And that's true. And, you mentioned this at the very beginning of the show, Tyler, to count the blessings of what you have at this moment. Because, what you might think is not such a great thing is a blessing in some form or fashion. So I would suggest to anyone who may be down and out, and maybe they thought, man, I'd love to create this card deck, and I'd like to, get it to a designer, and I'd love to see it on Kickstarter. Do not give up. Keep trying. Keep trying. Keep trying.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean,
I
and
agree.
like you said, even in failure, there's a lesson to be learned. And the people who really, I think, come away the most in life and the happiest in life are the ones who learn from their failures as well as their successes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that, you're not going to get down and out, during the process. Everyone does. And you're going to have, you might have a sleepless night and you wake up, thinking about whatever you're going through and think of how bad it is. But ultimately, those things, they'll pass and they'll become something wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. Well said, man. Well said.
Absolutely.
Let's see. I don't think we have any more questions on this side. Let's see. Incantation said, Kellar's a cool dude.
I'll do a shout out to Incantation. Man, what a wonderful deck you're creating right now.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that dropping, and hopefully it gets funded, and I look forward to it. Is there any other decks that you've been seeing around that haven't hit Kickstarter yet that you're looking forward to, or?
Something that really has caught my eye, and I was talking about simplistic designs, and I think it's wonderful. One of my favorites recently was this one right here, which is the 1969 deck.
Nice.
Yeah, by Jason.
Jason did a good job with that one. Yeah, deck idea.
Yes, and I
Deck
have
idea,
to
yep.
say, I just saw a recent post from him today about the concept of the egg deck.
Yeah.
And I've seen, of course, the loaf of bread, and I think, brilliant. It's just
He's funny, man.
It is.
He's got some cool ideas.
And I actually took it upon myself last week to message him because I had received this 1969 deck and was just telling him how excited I was to actually touch and feel this deck. I mean, it makes me excited, of course, to know that the Charmers deck, the purple and green are of course done by Cardamundi on this B9 Slimline. And this is just so well done.
Did you back his snake deck, the serpent?
I did not. I for some reason missed it, but I will definitely be on the line to get some of those when they come out.
And I have to say too, Jason is one of those who's a prime example of that, learning from your failures to lead to success. Because if you take a look at his Kickstarter, that 1969 deck is actually the third evolution of a deck he tried to push through that didn't fund the first two times. He took feedback, he learned from it, he evolved the deck, and eventually it clicked and people loved it. That's that striving to success.
And something else that I've noticed recently is our guy Darren that does the card decks and bottles. He's been working on some decks recently, and he got through his the noodle deck. And he's working on what did I see? Was it called
Fresh Cuts? Yeah, his barbershop deck. Yeah.
So it's just. I think it's wonderful just to see the ideas that come through. And, a lot of times you think, an idea pops in your head and you go, well, what about a card deck about that? And you think, no, that's a stupid idea. But you know what? All it takes is people to love what it looks like. And for instance, like the bread and the egg deck, I mean, how simplistic can you get? But in the same realm, it's just a wonderful idea.
Yeah. I mean, it just it's all about promoting. It's all about just building it with the community, you
Yep.
know. And if they feel like they're a part of it, they'll be on board for sure, you know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think one of the yeah, there's so many good examples of that. It's one of the things I think, you know, a lot of people who come into this community join it as a hobby and then, you know, realize what a, you know, a family it becomes, because you see that community involvement. You see the people taking the feedback, taking the ideas and running with it and getting the members involved. And so what ends up happening is you feel like you're a part of building the deck, and it goes to fund. And, you know, we just saw it actually with Metal Arcs, which funded in, I think, 12 hours. That deck was
Yeah.
a labor of love, clearly, but obviously was also a big
Ah,
community involvement. And to fund within 12 hours as a first deck is pretty much unheard of. So,
Yeah.
you know, congrats to Jonathan there with that one. He did a phenomenal job with it, but you know, that goes to show how much being involved with the community in a true kind of organic way leads to good things.
yeah,
Yeah.
he put so much into that deck. Like the time, the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into that thing. I'm so glad it got funded, and you know, hopefully it hits 300-400%. That'd be dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful deck of cards. It truly is, and yeah, I mean, it's great to get excited to see, or to sit back and think, you know, what deck is going to hit the Kickstarter, you know, in the next week or month or 6 months. I mean, it gets you excited.
Well, and one of the things you see a lot too with Kickstarter is, you know, every time Steve or I go on there to look at what the new projects are, you know, obviously with the show we're doing that pretty frequently. We'll go on and take a look, and I see like 3 or 4 decks that I've never even heard of. And so I'll go and I'll dig, and the
Yeah.
person's got an Instagram account, but they're really not pushing it. They may be, you know, they're not following a lot of people. They don't have a lot of followers, and I'm like, the legwork. You know, I think a lot of people get impatient, and with some of those people, if you just took a month or two to really ingrain yourself, that deck would fund, or you'd get some feedback that would make it even better, and then it would fund. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and just to be a part of the community too, to help, you know, because the community will push and talk about what you're doing as well. I mean, United Cardist, what a wonderful forum.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And so many great people that are on there. And, you know, of course, you have no idea who a lot of them are. You know, you'll probably never meet them in person.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, for the most part, everyone, you know, supports and compliments and comments and gives ideas. So it's a great forum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, I have a question. Since you've been around the community for some time, how do you feel about the progress of the community? You know, and I've asked this question before. I think it was last week to Michaela. You know, what do you think about the progression in the facts of like, you know, in the past you never used to share magic tricks. They never used to like tell anybody how it's done, and now you see like shows about it. You see, you know, you can basically YouTube any magic trick and pretty much find out how it's done.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I don't like the idea of that, and mostly for this. You know, I look at it as, of course, people who have created those ideas and concepts over time. Again, it's like a card deck. They've worked hard to make those things reality. Now, there's some simple things, you know, making a coin vanish, reappear, you know, that, you know, everybody probably knows how most of those things work. But I think when it gets into sharing true ideas, you know, for instance, you see someone on America's Got Talent, and then someone tries to share the secret on YouTube, which again, you have to remember, most of those things are not the way those things work.
Yeah.
There's just someone trying to guess. You know, but what bothers me more than anything is how it totally takes the imagination out of it all. You know,
Yeah.
when I was a kid, you know, and I still love it now. If I want to read or know how something was done, I love to read an old magic book to try to figure it out. There may not be a picture or a diagram that shows you how to do it. You have to read the words and figure it out. But we live in a world that, you know, we want instant gratification.
Yep.
And, you know, I think we lose so much with that. But again, it's the world we live in. We can't really change much of it. We can just, you know, try to do the best we can. And when people are younger and they come to us and say, hey, can you show us how this is done? Sure, I can. but we're going to sit here and actually learn how it's done. We're not going to, I'm not just going to show you a trick and then you walk away and never perform it for someone, you know?
Right.
Defeats the purpose.
Yeah, for sure. It looks like Jamie actually had a good question that leads, right off of that is, what is your practiced response when someone asks you to tell your secrets?
Practice response. So, like if they were to tell my secrets,
if they were asking you to share your secrets. So, like, I feel like
how did you do that trick with Tyler, or how did you do this, or
Well, most of the time I use the old corny joke when they say, "How did you do that trick?" And I just say, "Very well, sir, very well."
There you go.
There you go. That's a good one.
But that I think that's the best way to explain it, because there are always going to be the hecklers in the audience, and they're always going to do those kind of things, and you just have to smile and shake their hand and go on with it. So
yeah, for sure.
Like the rule of never performing the same trick twice to the same people.
Yeah. So you're not going to do the same trick for us then?
Oh.
No. Can you
the same trick twice?
You want to give us another trick, or?
Yeah. Let's do something. Well, I'm going to ask, do you both have a deck of cards? It's interesting you have a deck in your hand, Steve. I don't know if Tyler does.
I always have a deck.
All right, so right now, what I'd like both of you to do, I want you to take that deck of cards in your hand. I want you to shuffle that deck of cards 3 times.
All right.
Whichever way you prefer. Overhand shuffle, underhand shuffle, whatever. Shuffle.
I feel like people are getting some real audio here, so enjoy the shuffle sounds.
ASM, y'all. ASM. Deckinaround with ASM.
Now, what I want you to do once you've done that is I want you to take that deck and I want you to just spread it across your desk or table in front of you.
All right.
Just spread it across. And okay. I want you both right now to think of a number.
Okay.
All right? Okay. Think of a number. All right, Steve, you go first. I want you to think of a number. All right. And you can call out that number. That's fine. But I want you to count to that number with the deck of cards. So start at either end of the deck and then count to that number and then stop at that number on a card. You got it? What number were you thinking of, by the way?
8.
8, yeah. So if you would, count to 8 and then look down or point your finger at the card.
Okay.
You got it?
Yep.
All right. I want you to take that card, pick it up, look at it.
Okay.
All right. You can show it. I want everyone to see it. Show us what the card is.
9 of hearts.
9 of hearts. All right. So, Tyler, you've done the same thing. Did you spread the cards out? All right. So, what number did you come up with?
I was actually thinking of 7.
7. Wow, you guys are on the same.
We really are.
So, did you count to the number 7?
Yep.
Yeah. So, pick up that card and look at it.
The 10 of clubs.
Now it's interesting because you guys could have shuffled those cards anyway. I gave you that option, right? And then you could have also picked any number, right? So there's 52 cards in the deck, right? Yep. So there's 52 cards, and there's also I don't know, what are even the possibilities of 52 playing cards? You could have shuffled those cards any way you wanted to, right? Yep. You could have there's 52 cards, there's 52 numbers, there's 52 names of cards, there's face cards, there's number cards, but you guys freely did those things. I did not force you into anything. Have we discussed this at all? And as a matter of fact, even if anyone thought we had discussed any of that, that's pretty impossible, all of those things.
Yeah,
right?
Without a doubt.
Yep.
Well, you guys probably haven't noticed, but you see back here, there's a box. Yeah, there's a box, and it actually is a chest, all right? And there's a key right behind the chest. Now, watch. I'm going to place the key inside, trying to sort of backwards doing this. You see this?
Yep.
I'm going to unlock the chest. All right. If I can get it unlocked. There we go. Now, inside this box, there is a little brass box, all right? Right here. You see it?
Yeah.
I want you to see. This box is going to stay in view. I'm not going to move it, but you see there's nothing else inside.
Okay.
Now, did that box come with that little pair of scissors you had?
Yeah, you like that? That's funny. So here's the thing. So the box is solid, yes.
All right.
But I want to show you, there's also a key right here. And if I unlock this, it's a tiny key too. If I unlock it and open it up, there is something inside, all right? And what I'm going to do is dump this right into my hand. You see that?
Yep.
There's something there. It's a slip of paper. Can you see it? Yep. I'm going to unroll it. Now, if you would, this box has been sitting here since we started this entire thing.
You haven't touched it since before the show.
Think about this. You both took a deck of cards. You shuffled it however you wanted to shuffle it. You picked a number, any number you wanted to. You counted down. You had no idea what card that was that you were going to look at. So, Steve, you said the number 8. Tyler, you said 7. What was the card you said, Steve?
9 of hearts.
9 of hearts.
Yep.
And Tyler, you said 7, and you said 10 of clubs.
Correct.
You see, earlier today, you had no idea I was even going to do this effect. But I want to show you, I wrote some things down.
Oh, move it to the other side. There you go, right there.
What? No way.
Did you read it?
Yeah. Steve
8 and 9 of hearts.
Oh my god.
Tyler 7 and 10 of clubs.
That is
Crazy.
That is insane.
Right there. Right there.
That is spectacular. Crazy. Oh my god, man.
That's cool.
So,
man.
That's a little mind reading for you.
That is awesome, though. That was spectacular. Last time I always tell Steve this story. Last time I had a magic trick done on me, I messed it up. So I'm glad for these two I did not mess it up today.
Ask him who it was with.
It was with David Blaine on the streets of New York City, and I didn't even know it was him, and I messed it up horribly. And then he just shook his head at me and walked away. So
that's a good thing you weren't. Big thing he does now is he regurgitates the frogs, I think. Yeah. So,
I'm glad I didn't mess that one up.
Yeah. Yeah, David's a very talented guy and a tremendous card magician too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, well, thank you very much for that trick. That was spectacular. I'm gonna tell you too. It was funny because I know one of the questions in the chat was ask about the lamp, and I know I asked about the lamp before the show too because it's a beautiful lamp. But I noticed the box as well, and so having seen you not touch that box since before the show, I'm literally mind blown here.
It's been right here. There's no. This is just it in my little small room right here with my card decks, and so tried to think of something unique to do for you tonight. It was I have to say it was not an easy task, especially knowing that Steve does some magic, and I wasn't sure about you, Tyler, but it's like, what do you do? And of course, the guys that are watching who might dabble in magic, it's hard to perform magic for magicians. So
no, we really appreciate it, though.
It's awesome. It's definitely cool, for sure.
I mean, I think being able to see it too, and the fact that it's over the internet is so awesome. Like, still to have that amazement at the end of it, where the distance doesn't matter. It's just so cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool when actually I know I actually learned a mentalism trick over on YouTube, and it was Chris Ramsey did it, and it's a really cool mentalism trick. You guys will have to check it out, but basically it's just a whole new level when they have the deck of cards in their hands and they're pulling it out and all that. So you obviously can't manipulate the deck. You know, so really, really cool. I'm a big fan of, mentalism as itself, but over the computer is really cool.
Yeah, and you don't get the opportunity to do it that often. I've actually done mentalism over the radio before, which is
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
very difficult for it to play for the audience listening.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
No, that's
That's
really
cool.
cool though. So
Right on. Well,
yeah.
go ahead, Ty.
I know we had one more question from Instagram, at least on my end, Steve. I'm not sure if you had any, but Brian, who is what the deck, you may have seen him around on Instagram. He said,
yeah.
"What hair products do you use? Because you're forever looking impeccable." So
funny.
there you go.
That's funny. Well, thank you. Oh, what the deck. And Brian, I appreciate you saying that. Actually, I was just trying to think. My wife gives me a hard time, by the way. She says it takes you longer to fix your hair than it does for me to fix my hair. And but I don't know. I think it's I do spray my hair.
Okay.
That's
But
the key.
yeah, you have to. Like, well, for instance, we took a family walk this evening. The weather's been so nice here in South Carolina, and we took a family walk, and I was like, oh, hot and sweaty, so I had to come in and shower to be on this great show here tonight. So, so it's extra fresh for you. Oh, what the
There
nice.
you go.
But I think it's Pantene, by the way.
All right.
Oh, don't tell anybody that. That's
Hey, but you know what, Steve? It's all about whatever the wife buys you. That's what you use.
I hear you. Yeah. Luckily, Leslie is very picky when it comes to shampoo and conditioner.
There you go.
No.
So she spoils me, I guess, with that.
There you go. Steve's got some luscious locks that he has to take care of too. So
Yeah, I got the.
Yeah.
So one last question, and then we'll wrap it up. One of the questions was, I wasn't sure who asked it, but for somebody who is looking to get into mentalism, where is a good place to start?
that came from Mike. Incantation cards.
Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So a good place to start would be to look for some fantastic mentalism books. There's and you can feel free to message me incantation cards, but there's some wonderful books. There's some fabulous mentalists who unfortunately are no longer with us that have written some fantastic material. But I would say that if you get on the tube and look for or on the internet and look for mentalism books, that's where you should start. Don't go for DVDs, anything like that. But then also there's forums where guys will help lead you in the right direction. And I can most certainly do that. And most of those things rather discuss in private. But it's one of those things where you just you find the small place to start, and then you expand based on those concepts. And then what I love about it is that you read the inspirations in the book, the effects that you might be able to perform, and then you use that knowledge, which is what we all do, to create our own performance pieces. So
yeah, for sure.
So most of the things that you see, I think full-time performers do. We do similar pieces, but we've taken the concepts. They may work the same, but we've put our own spin on it. So
Very nice.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, dude.
It's been a pleasure tonight, Kellar. We really appreciate you coming on. I think everyone's mind was sufficiently blown tonight just from both those tricks, and between that, the lamp, the tiny scissors in the box, we've seen some impressive stuff tonight. So
Great, and I just like to say that again, thank you to everyone who supported the Charmers deck on Kickstarter, and the tremendous work was done before and of course after Kickstarter. Now production goes on, and it's just as exciting for me to be able to share what Lotrick and I have done together with you. And it's great to be a part of the community, and keep your eye out for Charmers, and also there'll be some surprises coming down the road. I'll just say that.
We're excited to see
Well,
what they are.
maybe when you're ready to reveal those cool little prizes, you can come back on and share it with the guests.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Absolutely.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Kellar. Guys, thank you so much for being in a wonderful audience tonight. As always, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you get notifications. We have some great guests coming up over the next couple weeks. Obviously, Kellar's definitely setting the tone here. So make sure to check it out. Follow the Instagram. Everyone's information will be in the description below or some of the comments. I took some notes tonight for some of the stuff to put in the comments there. So make sure to check it out, guys. And everyone stay safe.
Thank you very much, Kellar. Thank you very much, everybody, for stopping by, and we'll see y'all next week.
Keep the wonder.
Peace.
See you guys.
Keep the wonder.
Keep the wonder.